Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I am here tonight with David Wynn Miller. And he is Judge David Wynn Miller, and we're going to get him to give his own bio simply because it's a little confusing to me. And he has a website. I've linked his website on my page on Project Camelot portal.com or projectcamelot.tv. So if you have any questions, you can go over there and you'll see a link to his website to follow up on things that are said here today. And then we're also going to be talking about Leighton Ward. And we've got some family pictures that were submitted by his sister, Mandy. And I do have an audio that we'll try to play. It's quite a short audio. It's a phone call between Leighton Ward and his sister. And that was a phone call made from prison. It's quite a short audio. The audio is not terribly clear, but we're going to try to play it anyway. So that's the plan for tonight. And welcome, David. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm 68 years old now. I've been in law for 37 years. I got 90,000 hours of research. I've written several books, put on over 1,000 seminars, traveled around the world. We have registered over 5 billion people on our website in 150 languages under the dwmlc.com website. And the reason it's gone that big worldwide is because of our government trying to slander the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar. And in trying to do so, they cause people to look at the David Wynn Miller name, and then it takes them to the website, takes them to the videos, and now we're the first page on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and several of the other carriers. Because of the amount of volume and traffic that is within this on my technology. I get about 100 to 150 emails a day and a dozen phone calls a day trying to get a hold of me and ask questions or go through. People are realizing that grammar is the foundation of every contract. And syntax grammar verifies if that contract was written correct. All things on planet Earth that are owned because of a contract. If the contract is written in adverb verb or adverb adjective pronoun, it's been modified to color or modified for opinion, and so therefore your contract is fraudulent. And we could mathematically certify that fraudulent and engineer it to be a fraud, both frontwards and backwards. So with that said, it has embarrassed the 11,000 judges and 1.6 million attorneys, and every court on planet Earth that uses fiction language. Now, one of the things that took place four hearings ago at the Leighton Ward, one of their ominous hearings, is Leighton says to the judge, I want to see the law, rule, regulation, and code of your contracts to hold me in prison. And the prosecuting attorney says to the judge, I object to the use of correct parse, syntax, grammar in this court. And the judge stands up and says, I agree. We will not use any correct parse, syntax, grammar in this court in front of 20 prisoners sitting in a jury box, a dozen attorneys sitting in the audience, and realize that he just confessed to perjury under Title 18, Section 1621, because he says we will not be correct. And that also violates Title 18, 1001, which is fictitious conveyance of language, which carries a 10-year prison sentence and $10,000 fine. And under Title 15, Section 1692E, under the Fair Trades Act, it carries a $25 million fine for a corporation, and the judge and the district attorney creates a corporation within court system. That's the Bernie Madoff case, who stole $69 billion from Wall Street and wound up in prison for 150 years. Why is Leighton in prison? Because he syntaxed the judges of Lake Havasu and the district attorney oaths of offices. And he did it on the Federal Postal Court website. It's about a 1-hour presentation where he identified the parts of speech It showed how the oath of office was fraudulent for both the attorneys, lawyers, and judges. And so they issued a warrant for his arrest. And then he went ahead and he filed a complaint against Bank of America, not at the court clerk's office, but the county clerk. Now, the county clerk is responsible to lodge or file complaints. Under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 70A and 70B, a complaint was filed against Bank of America. They faulted. A judgment was issued by the Federal Postal Court and then lodged at the Lake Havasu County Commissioner's Office. And so they issued, because that was an official lodging, they went ahead and issued a warrant for his arrest because he blew the whistle on the fraud that Bank of America was using on the mortgages. Now, we syntaxed the Bank of America mortgage with 4,700 syntax grammar mistakes. And with that many mistakes, we proved that it was an engineered fraudulent mortgage. So the state being exposed, and since 2008, when we syntaxed Washington Mutual's mortgage, that one lawsuit shut down Washington Mutual, which opened on Friday at $60 a share and opened Monday morning after filing bankruptcy for 10 cents a share. The major banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank, and Chase, all rushed in and bought those 2 million fraudulent mortgages. But when they got the accompanying lawsuit with it, their stock dropped 95% in 6 weeks, all the major banks. And that created the market went from 12,700 all the way down to 8,000, which was the housing bubble burst and collapsed. Then Eric Holder came in and sued the banks through the Securities and Exchange for selling fraudulent mortgages to the Securities and Exchange and collected $400 billion from the banks for fraudulent mortgages. Then Kamala Harris in California, I brokered a deal between the 4 major banks and Kamala Harris for the fraudulent mortgages of California, and Kamala Harris received a check for $26 billion from the banks. She used that $26 billion to pay off the $19 billion bankruptcy of California in 2010. That's all on the internet. That's public record. The other $8 billion or $7 billion from that went to the whistleblower fund for mortgage relief for the people that were displaced. So, I mean, these are some of the biggest lawsuits ever settled in the United States because of grammar. And because we blew the whistle on Lake Havasu, they're saying that correct grammar is a fraud. It's a simulation of their fiction grammar because we blew the whistle on it. So they're trying to charge Leighton with simulation of a legal process, the legal process being fiction. Now, there is no such thing as fiction. There is no such thing as negativity. There is only performance. There is only energy and different values of measuring energy. You can never create the negative condition of anything. And yet the entire court system is engineered on the word no, not, without, no thing, re, dis, un, in, which are prefixes. All prefixes mean no. Every word that you see with a vowel and 2 consonants means no contract. We proved that. It took us 2,000 hours to look up every word in the dictionary and all the synonyms of those words to make that statement a true statement, and then wrote a dictionary with 750 words to prove the wrong words in the English language and the correct syntax words that are positive performance words that you should use as synonyms. Okay. And we published it in our book and on the website.
All right. Now, what I'm going to do here is, David.
This is some of the work that we've done.
Thank you. Well, can you? I don't know if you can see the screen. I'm just putting the Attorney General Kamala Harris judgment up here for people because I'm sure they'd be curious to see a bit more detail on that.
That's That's the 2016. That's the 2016 settlement. In 2010, she got $26 billion to
Okay.
pay off the bankruptcy of California.
And did she do that?
The deal was that, yeah, she paid off the bankruptcy of California.
Okay.
She was supposed to reinvest the money back into the banks, which could have fractioned it at 10-1 and made $250 million by paying her $26 billion. And she didn't do that. And so she broke the trust with the banks, and so they won't do business with her now.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So all this money changed hands. Where exactly did it go?
Well, it was the check was cut for $26 billion to the Attorney General back in 2010, and then she dispersed $19 billion of it to pay off the bankruptcy of California, and the balance was sent over to the whistleblowers.
Okay.
And what that money is being done with, since it went to the whistleblowers, is still a mystery to us.
All right. Well, that's very interesting. Did this stuff hit the news? Kamala Harris paying off the bankruptcy of California?
Bankruptcy of California, yeah. Obama had a big ceremony in Washington, D.C., honoring her for paying off the bankruptcy when that money changed hands. That was back in 2010.
So this is 2010, so we'll try to do a search on that as well. Just trying to find, let people know what's going on with this issue. So can you give a little of your actually bio background, your background in terms of how you got into this line of work, and I understand you've spent a very long time learning law and learning the real law.
37 years.
Okay.
Yeah, in 1980, I went through a divorce, and Judge Stanley Miller took away my children, saying men cannot nurture children, only women can. I says, well, that violates the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Under sex discrimination, I charge you with sex discrimination. He says, I'm a judge, I can do whatever I want. I said, I don't think so. I says, you took an oath, and your oath was to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States. And the 1964 Civil Rights Act was a very major law passed in the United States and supported by the United States Supreme Court. Well, they brought him up on judicial charges, and he was disbarred as a judge. 7 years later, he was reassigned, and 2 weeks after that, I showed up in his courtroom, and he was disbarred a second time. And 8 years after that, he was reassigned as a judge, and I showed up in his courtroom. And again, he was disbarred within a week of my being in his courtroom because I brought new charges against him each time. And he wound up dying 3 years later and never served as a judge on the bench. But in 1985, Judge Wasilewski in Milwaukee County, I went in front of him 65 consecutive times under writ de novo, 2 weeks apart. And he said, David, every time you say yes, I'm going to say no. And every time you say no, I'm going to say yes. He says, no matter what you write, no matter what you say in this court, you're going to be wrong. I says, well, is 3 + 3 = 6? He says, yes. I says, you said you never agree with me. He says, well, that's a math problem. No one in the history of mankind ever went to war over a math problem. No religious, no sex, no political organization. He says, because you could always check the math by doing it backwards. And you could prove if somebody made a mistake, so there was no reason to go to war over it. So then I said to him, I says, well, then you just said to me, if I can find a mathematical interface on grammar and prove that grammar is a linear equation in math, that you'll give me my children back. He says, yes. He says, I'll have to. He says, because then you will be correct. He says, you're a smart guy. You'll figure it out. It took me 1,000 days of working with every kind of math I could figure out. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, sine, cosine, tangent, quantum physics, string theory into quantum physics. And guess what the answer was? 1 + 2 = 3. 3 - 2 = 1. 2 × 3 = 6. 6 divided by 3 = 2. We add, subtract, multiply, and divide, sine, cosine, tangent. to prove frontwards and backwards the operations. Well, when you write a prepositional phrase, for the bridge is over the water. Well, that's 7 words. For the bridge makes the bridge a fact. Is the verb thinking. Over the water makes water a fact. And over is a preposition. If you say it backwards, for the water is under the bridge. And over and under are opposite, just like adding and subtracting are. And both pictures are identical. And with that simple sentence, I was able to prove, and I've done it in a 400-page website, 12,000 lawsuits, and over 400 hours of teaching in seminars, doing 1,000 seminars since 1995, on radio, TV, live stand-up, traveling all over the world to put this point across to the people. And the people are listening because of the volume of people that are studying. And it's been proven by university professors. And my website is written in 150 different languages, frontwards and backwards, with no translation deviation. Only website on 4 billion websites on the internet that can make that claim that every sentence I write on my website can be written backwards with the same volition as it was written frontwards, with no translation deviation. When I went to Germany in March of 2016, it took me 15 minutes to learn the German language. And I could syntax the German language. When I went to New Zealand with the Maori language, it took about an hour for me to learn the Maori language and syntax it. And then when I translated to English, it was a perfect mathematical translation with no translation deviation. And so I wrote the New Zealand Constitution in quantum language. I wrote the Australian Constitution in correct grammar. I wrote the Ireland Constitution in August of 2012, and they got their independence from Ireland after 660 years of war. Now Scotland's going for their independence, using the same Constitution, which is published on my website. These things are facts. When Iceland saw the lawsuit, the Quo Warranto complaint for fraudulent mortgages, kicked out every bank in Iceland and gave every homeowner in Iceland clear title to their properties, and told London and Wall Street to suck it up, or they'll go public and expose the fraudulent grammar that's being used to steal. 30 million of the 68 million mortgages in the United States are now in foreclosure. That's 40% of the population of America is in foreclosure. And then I had a car accident.
Okay, wait, slow down.
We had
Thank you. Can you explain that statement? All these people are in foreclosure on their mortgages. What does that have to do with you?
That has to do with me because I was the one that has been syntaxing and publishing the mortgages all over the United States. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wrote 40 million of the 68 million mortgages. They are all 100% fraud. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are filing bankruptcy for $40 trillion because they got caught in a lie.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be the biggest bankruptcy in the history.
All right. But
and, with 40% of the people in foreclosure, that's pretty serious.
Okay, David, I want to ask you some questions.
Rolling around at 24,000?
No, I mean, that's very fascinating. But first of all, they're in foreclosure. Are you saying that you argued some of their cases? Or are you just stating a fact in general?
No, we have filed 700 Quo Warranto complaints with the Justice Department, with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, with the Treasury, with the Comptroller of the Treasury, with the Securities and Exchange for securitized
have you had any
securitized asset-backed mortgage fraud.
Okay, but have you had any
700 cases is $14.5 billion in damages.
I appreciate that. Now, have you had any of these cases go to court to be decided?
It's up to Leighton and I are whistleblowers. We have supplied the government with signed confessions of criminal activity.
Right.
The departments that I just said are responsible to stop and correct criminal activity.
Okay.
And they're not doing it.
Okay.
When Trump took office, he fired 47 attorney generals. The first thing he did was fire the attorney generals for not doing their job. So
Okay.
somebody's got to be responsible for all this criminal activity.
I understand.
Then to further the injury, I had a car accident where a lady was texting, went through a red light, and smashed into my car. When they found out that the federal postal judge, David Wynn Miller, was a driver, and my passenger was injured, 14 law firms refused in sequence to take the case. The Farmers Insurance Company, which is owned by Mid-Century Insurance, which controls 25 of the largest insurance companies in the United States, went through six law firms before they got one to take the case. And then I syntaxed the Farmers Insurance policy and State Farm and Mid-Century Insurance, and I posted it on my website. So anybody that has an insurance policy and wants to compare it, it's up on the DWMLC website under insurance fraud. And when you see that your insurance policy is 125% fraud, and you really don't have insurance, and if you get into an accident, they only pay on 1% of the claims and only 10 cents on a dollar of those claims. And these insurance companies that advertise these $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 claims, yes, they will pay 1 in 1,000 and then use that to just for advertising purposes to bring people in thinking they're covered. But when you go and you file your claim, you get nothing. Your basement is flooded? Well, too bad. You're not covered for that. You had a fire? Well, too bad. You didn't have fire insurance because the fire was written as a verb, not as a fact. The insurance policies are written entirely in adverb verb.
All right. Be that as it may, you can't fight every battle. So there's some people going out there trying to use your methods, I think, to fight the system and failing for the most part, from what I understand. I don't know whether Sean David Morton, I don't know whether you remember him or knew him, but Sean David Morton used some of your language from what I understand. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know whether you consider yourself part of what's called the sovereign movement. Are you, No,
there's no such. Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway was sovereign. That's what sovereignty is. A nude man on a desert island with no contracts. That's sovereignty.
Okay, can you explain that further?
When you are in our system, yes. If you're carrying money in your pocket to buy groceries because you look well fed, and you have a MasterCard, and you have a driver's license, and you have insurance policies, you're a postal employee. Because money is postage stamps. The Treasury is owned by the post office. The post office owns all 3,800 branches of government. All military comes under the postal.
Okay, I'm not a big fan of the post office.
You remember Bill Clinton? What's that?
I said I'm not a big fan of the post office. And I do wonder, what is this virtual currency, cryptocurrency? How is that going to change that scenario?
Don't know anything about it. Bitcoin, that's a joke as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, just because
somebody pulled a gimmick out of the air.
Okay, well, have you studied it, though? Are you talking out of being educated?
Where's the sweat equity?
Sorry?
I say, where's the sweat equity of gold and silver, and where you earn something, not just created something and threw it out there as a Bitcoin?
Well, I think that's a good argument, but what I'm asking you is, I'm just curious whether you've investigated this.
Okay.
We have, just for my listeners, I just want to let people know that, I apologize because we do have kind of a delay at David's end. I'm not sure what country he's in, but it's I don't know why we have a delay, but that's what you're seeing with David. He's trying to speak to you, and there's a delay. So that's why the I don't know if you're seeing a delay at your end, but there is one at mine. So David, I wanted to know.
I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. There's no reason why we should have such a weird delay, but we do. Maybe it's your internet connection or whatever. But I'm just wondering, are you able to speak to how this digital currency, sort of new, sort of virtual currency, what's happening, is changing your approach, or whether or not, the Postal Service, as you're claiming, is the, rightful owner of whatever? Sorry, I don't understand that.
United States Post Office. United States Post Office is responsible for the United States dollar. It's not involved with Bitcoin. That's an internet. That's a cyber technology.
Right.
So you don't have taxes involved.
Well, apparently the IRS is now saying
you use poker chips.
Well, apparently today there was an article. There's an article saying today that the IRS is planning to do something about taxing the returns from Bitcoin.
Well, then they better use the correct Parse syntax grammar, because if they don't, it's just another adverb verb babbling. You know what the word internal means? IN means no, TER is terra, earth, and AL is contract. Revenue, RE is no, VEN is venue, and UE is contract. No venue contract. So you have a no earth contract and a no venue contract. Service. Everything in the IRS codes is written in adverb verb, Title 26. There is not a single fact in the entire IRS codes. Everything is in a box, and under maritime law boxing, anything in a box is an enclosed area and can't be considered. And when I sued the Treasury on March 1st, 1997, they took the boxes off all the old money. Look at your old money versus your new money, and had to print all new money. I did the same thing to Canada, and they had to go from paper money to plastic money. So did Australia and New Zealand. I'm public enemy number one to the currency issues worldwide.
Okay.
Because I blew the whistle and I had mathematical proof on my side.
Okay. Let me ask you about an interesting thing that happened to do with the consumer, the Department of Consumer
Financial Protection Bureau.
Where they actually, right? A person was resigning. He wanted to give that sort of the directorship on a temporary basis to the person below him, in the subordinate position, who was then going to move into his position. At the same time, Trump elected his own person as a president, and he put that person in place. Apparently, I don't know if it's already happened. I don't know the date, but it was something like this week or next week. These people are both going to show up for both the same job. Did you hear about this?
No, I haven't. I've been traveling for the last week.
Okay, well, it might really interest you because it does have to do with...
I've been in Vegas. I've been back and forth to Vegas.
Okay, but it has to do with consumer advocacy, and it's very interesting to me. It's an area that, it appears that Leighton Ward is to some degree involved in. And would you consider yourself involved in that area or not?
No, he's not involved with any of that. He's been in jail for 190 days with no charges.
Well, prior to that, I thought the internet refers to him as prior to that, the internet refers to him as a consumer advocate. Does that mean anything to you?
What he's doing is, because people are buying mortgages and he just strictly does mortgages, but because they were buying homes, that's a consumer issue. And the mortgages were fraudulent. And so he was exposing the fraudulent mortgages. And Bank of America, bank is a pronoun, of is an adverb modifying the verb America. There's no such thing as a verb America. That's syntax. That's basic syntax under the Federal Styles Manual. So it's a bank of fraud. And everything written in their policies is fraudulent. They use double line spacing in all court cases, which breaks the continuance of evidence under the two-space rule. They use a vowel in two consonant words, which means no contract. They separate the prepositions and articles to create adverb, verb, and adverb, adjective, pronoun phrases. They absolutely do not use prepositional phrases to certify the value of a fact. And every fact has 900 definitions, and I prove that mathematically.
Okay, can I ask you?
68 prepositions and 38 articles.
Okay, can I ask you if your interest in this and your sort of emphasizing these as either laws or facts, is this coming from the Constitution or is this coming from judicial procedure and manuals that they published years ago?
The Federal Styles Manual, the Judicial Procedure, Civil Procedure, and Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure. PRO means no, and procedure means contract. So you have the Federal Rules of No Contract. So because everything is no trespassing, don't walk, and they use the word no and no contract words throughout everything they publish. The only thing they will use in court is negativity, because negativity does not exist. You cannot be found guilty of not doing anything.
Okay, but
I want to know where these anything because they don't do anything.
Okay, but I want to know where these rules come from. Are they written into the Constitution of the United States? Are they written somewhere?
No, the Styles Manual.
Okay,
all
so
250
it's just a manual.
Countries in the world
Why does it
are using the
matter?
Same Styles Manual.
Okay, but one minute you say they're using it, the next minute you tell me they're not using it.
The Styles Manual was the standard to communicate between 5,000 different foreign languages. Otherwise, you wouldn't have trade. You would not have banking. You can't have commerce if you can't communicate, because everything functions on contract. And if your contract is fraud, you don't have a contract.
Okay, so are you telling me
it's fraud?
All right, work with me here. Are you telling me that sometimes they use it and sometimes they don't?
They are absolutely not allowed to use correct syntax grammar. They will be disbarred as judges and be disbarred as attorneys and lawyers. 90% of everybody that's a politician in the United States is an attorney or a lawyer and went to law school and learned how to use adverb verb. We wrote a perfect law for equal shared parenting using correct sentence structure. It had to go through a group of attorneys. When it came out the other side, every single prepositional phrase was taken out and only adverb verb was put in to hand to the Senate of Wisconsin. And the Senate came back and said, this is stupid. It doesn't say anything, and threw it out. It was a perfect bill that they destroyed, that take away equal shared parenting between parents and destroying all the children. And 70% of all people in the United States are divorced. 70% of all kids going to school, high schools and grade schools, come from broken families.
All right.
Look at all that messed up.
All right. That's
messed up kids.
Those are some good statistics. I appreciate that. But what I want to ask you is if they have it written down somewhere and they decided on it in whatever year that was, because I don't know when that was, but they don't use it, then it's no longer used. But you're trying to bring it back. Is that what you're trying to do?
The styles of boxing, the styles of two-space rules, and the styles of those two factors right there, just boxing and double spacing, destroy 100% of your contracts.
Okay, but
and the fact that you have to have a prepositional phrase to certify a fact. And if you destroy the prepositional phrase, you destroy the fact and make it a verb.
Okay, now I really...
They don't say for the fact, they say the fact.
Okay, I appreciate your logic. I think your logic sounds sound, but what I don't understand is you're talking about a language it takes two people to communicate. And I'm wondering if the problem, we have a problem here, right? You're saying they have written a certain type of procedure down, but they don't follow it anymore. I don't know if they ever did.
They don't teach it in school.
All right.
If you never learned it in school, here's a little exercise for everybody who's listening. Go ask somebody what the word syntax means. The only person that's going to answer you is a computer geek that studies computer code. You'll understand the word syntax. Everybody else never heard of the word. It's the biggest secret. The most powerful word in grammar is syntax.
Well,
only
I've
the
heard of
chief
it.
federal judges of the United States were allowed to know this.
Well,
that's why when a lower court made a decision, they said go ahead because he knows the syntax. And yes or no, because if the syntax is written in adverb verb, it's babble. The courts are a sham. They're just using fiction grammar to harvest people. 95% of all the people in prison put themselves there because they were scared. 33 million people are on probation. 14% of the American population is under arrest because they can't read and write above a second grade reading level.
Okay, but
that's sick compared to the world's
I
economies.
know, but I'm talking, I think it's interesting, but I wonder at the usability. If no one is using a system, they're no longer using the system, then it's antiquated and out of date, and the new system has to be, put into place, wouldn't you say?
If you're going to teach people fiction because they want to cover up the lie they told on July 4th, 1775, when Benjamin Franklin, who was a French attorney working for the English crown, opened the Federal Postal Court by the England Oversight Committee, appointed him the first federal postal judge. A year later, when the Revolutionary War broke out, he closed the court. On 12/21/2012, the day of the Mayan calendar, the end of, quote, the world, Russell J. Gould and myself walked into Benjamin Franklin's Federal Postal Court and ordered it open with the correct parsing, syntax, grammar, constitution, banking, and postal codes, and made it retroactive to July 4, 1775, 24 years before the Supreme Court was created. Then we served the Supreme Court, the President of the United States, the Justice Department, the Treasury, the Congress, the Senate, and the legislature, a 114-page document on why the Federal Postal Court was opened. 1 year later, 45 days and three days under the Rescissions Act, not one person in government complained, and we were seated in government as a third court system, open and legal, with the correct parsing, syntax, grammar, constitution, order of operations, banking on a gold standard, and we are a functional federal postal court. And the only thing we do is one thing. We do correct syntax grammar. Because correct syntax grammar covers every topic on planet Earth in every language and identifies and goes after every single contract that's ever been written in 8,500 years.
Okay.
When you control the contract in correctness, you control the world.
Okay, well, I think that's an interesting theory. I think that's an interesting theory. I appreciate that you think it's a fact. But what I want to ask you is, okay, so you did all this, but are they letting you operate? Because, there is actually, there's something in writing that you seem to be talking about, but there's actually what's actually happening to the planet and to the people on the planet that seems to be bypassing this sort of rule of law as you see it. So, it's in the application stage, it doesn't seem to be very effective. Have you considered this?
Yes, the answer to that question When a liar tells a lie, he has to keep telling lies. When a fact comes in front of him, and a factual court comes in front of him, a fact and a lie can never meet. Fiction and fact can never see each other. So when we bring correctness into a court system, it becomes a fact. But the fiction cannot see it because they would confess that every single person in jail and every single person on probation and every single person they took money from in violation of the Title 15, Section 1692 Fair Trades Act was a violation of false and misleading statements. You look at the repercussions of that for 240 years and do the math. We're talking about a real serious lie. And, you know, we're 4% of the world's population, and we're sitting out here trying to rule the world with a lie. And everybody knows it's a lie.
Well, I'm sure that they're all doing.
But when I go to foreign countries,
I'm sure their courts are lying too. I mean, you know, it's not just us. But
exactly.
let me ask you a couple things. One is, who invented this language that you're using? Isn't it England?
Article 8 the 6th of April 1988.
So, sorry, wait. Who invented this language, this procedures? Because we had a break in our connection here. Who invented this language? Is it not Britain? Maybe Admiralty law isn't. Didn't this come from Britain back in the day? Isn't this what you're quoting?
The Magna Carta was the one that started it in 1215. The Magna Carta was a lie. I syntaxed it and it was sold at Christie's of London in 2001 for $6.3 million as a historical document with no value. When I syntaxed the United Kingdom's Constitution, Queen Elizabeth got up on BBC and announced that all United Kingdom constitutions are null and void. When I syntaxed the Irish Constitution and proved it was a lie and wrote them a correct one, they got their independence after 660 years of war. That's the power of correct grammar. The state of the Hawaiian Islands, or the Hawaiian Islands territory, got their independence on March 8th, 2013, after two consecutive 70-year international bankruptcies with Switzerland under the International Monetary Fund. And on the 11th of March, 2013, 47,000 tons of gold bullion was delivered to Honolulu. And the Chinese government, the Japanese government, the English and the Philippines and the Hawaiians are fighting who's going to get the 47,000 tons of gold bullion to manage the Hawaiian Islands. They're in their fourth year of arguing.
Okay, but you're saying that you helped the Hawaiians to gain, are you talking about you helped them gain independence?
I wrote the Hawaiian Constitution. We took it to The Hague. It was approved by the 17 judges. And we did that in the middle of the Blood Diamond War lawsuit where 385,000 people were murdered in Africa over blood diamonds. They stopped because the correct parse syntax grammar is so important for the 17 judges at The Hague to know that they suspended all hearings and heard our case for 5 days and awarded Hawaii their independence.
Okay, independence from
Hawaii
the United
was
wait. From the United States? Isn't this a state in the United States?
No. The only state that exists in the Hawaiian Islands is the state of the courtroom. That's it. Hawaiian Islands is a territory independent. The United States in 1893 was in bankruptcy with England. How does a bankrupt corporation invade the bankrupt corporation of Hawaii that was in bankruptcy in 1871? They've been in bank since October 22nd, 1871. If you add 70 years to 1871, it's December 7th, 1941, bombing of Pearl Harbor. And the Japanese were a sovereign country bombing a bankrupt corporation under the protection. And the United States was in bankruptcy with the International Monetary Fund.
Why does
a bankrupt corporation cannot invade another bankrupt corporation? But because Hawaii
why can't they? I mean, why can't they? Who says they can't?
It's under international maritime law that dates back almost 6,500 years.
Does that make it valid?
Yes, it's been around 6,500 years ago. They got what little bit of the world started. They put down the maritime laws. They put down the postal laws and the international bankruptcy laws of 70 years, and called the Year of Jubilee. And those laws have been going around for the last 6,800 years, since 4700 BC.
I see. And is your syntax grammar related to those laws?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you're building your case, if you will, for what you're saying on this interview and everywhere. You're building it on this sort of foundation of this admiralty law that was decided 6,000 years ago. Is that right?
Yes, the whole world had to do trade with each other as the world developed. And so rules of boxing, rules of double spacing, and as the languages changed and interfaced, they had to sit down and write treaties between the different languages and different governments. Otherwise, there'd be an endless war that took place.
Well, some would say there is an endless war. There's every indication that there is an endless war.
The rule, all right, and that comes under this rule here. The chicken has a right to eat. The fox has a right to eat. Enough said about rights. And that's what the judge said.
Well, okay. What is?
In other words, you can keep what you can hold. King Hussein said to the United States, "I'm a king. I'm a sovereign country." Yeah, well, they went over there and blew the shit out of them in 6 days and killed 95% of their empire. He says, "Yeah, you got a right to live, and we got a right to live. Now you don't have anything." You know, Leighton asked me to say this to the audience. As a prisoner, you have a right to eat. And all prisoners in all jails in the United States are fed. Vegetarian right, correct? And all prisoners in all jails in the United States have a toilet. Even if you're on an airplane flying, the toilet is the brig on an airplane because it's a vessel in a sea of space. Or on a ship. And if you walk into any court on planet Earth and you speak a foreign language, you're entitled to have the right to understand what the judge is saying, what the laws are, what the prosecutor is saying. So you're entitled to a translator. Like if you go into an English court and you speak Spanish, you're entitled to Spanish or German or Russian or Japanese, Chinese, don't matter what it is. You are entitled to a translator. So Leighton says, "I can't understand you, Judge. You're babbling an adverb verb." I went Federal Judge David Wynn Miller, who understands and has the treaty to translate babble into quantum language so I can understand you. Denied. You are not allowed to use any correct grammar in this court. You are not allowed to have a correct translator in this court. Quote unquote from Rick Lambert, the judge in Mohomie County Jail, or Mohomie County Court. So he's denied the basic right to communicate with the court. And so the judge says, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to recuse myself." And the district attorney says the same thing. If we already confessed that we can't be correct, I guess we're going to have to recuse ourselves. And so that's where it sits. He's in 190 days. There has not been a legal word, a legal charge placed against Leighton Ward by the United States government, by the state of Arizona, by the county of Mohabit, by anybody. because the world of fiction can't communicate with the Federal Postal Court because it's a court of correct grammar.
Okay, well, Sean David Morton did the same thing in court, and he was unable. They put 2 guards on either side of him whenever he tried to stand up and speak in court and say anything about, some of the things you're talking about. They shut him up, they made him sit down, and they wouldn't let him talk.
Yes, because he was going to use correct grammar.
Right.
And the sentence he was is for the claimants now is with the claim of the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, with the laws, rules, regulations, and codes for the avoidance of perjury under Title 18, 1621 by this claimant. Shut up. Now, some of these, and they want to use redemption, strawman, UCC, and acceptance for value, and they want to throw in a little bit of my technology. That's called a fruit salad.
Okay, our communication is being interrupted, as you can see on the screen. So we're going to try to stand by and see if it reconnects. So, right. Okay, so crazy. Actually, I think what I might have to do is call him on the phone. I'm not sure. It looks like he lost his connection. So I'm going to sort of stand by and hold on 1 minute. I have to make sure this room is still open. I don't know how to do that. This is not working right. Okay, I'm going to shut this part down and bring it in again. Hi, David.
There you are. Yes.
Okay, good. So we're back with you. You started to...
I don't know if that was you or if they actually cut us off.
Well, they probably cut you off, but I don't know why you're having a bad connection. I don't know if this is usual for you. I don't know, what goes on.
Yes. Every time I hit a nerve, they have the power over the internet. Now, I'll repeat the statement. If you have 100 numbers times 0, it equals 0. You've watched crime shows on TV. You've seen people on the witness stand go through all the facts and then tell a lie. And what happens? All their testimony is thrown out, because just like a lie from a person in a correct sentence structure will then cause everything to be a lie. Just like 0 times any series of numbers equals 0. 0 divided by any series of numbers equals 0. And a 0 equals the lie. And I've been able to prove that frontwards and backwards since I started this program 29 years ago.
Okay, well, I appreciate...
And that's what makes me dangerous, is because I have their signed confession.
All right. I appreciate this notion that you have been able to make language appear like mathematics. And based on what this judge told you, if you did that, it would somehow be correct. But this is still a supposition on the part of that judge. I mean, why does it matter if language is balanced like mathematics? Whoever said it had to be? And why did you believe that?
Because if you have the word opinion, presumption, assumption, guessing, and perjury all violate correctness in a courtroom, which are lies. And if you're going to tell a lie and commit perjury, Title 42, 1988. While engaged in the fictitious conveyance of language, the state is liable for all damages, and the case is vacated. And every word out of the DA's mouth and every word out of the judge's mouth since this case started 190 days ago has been a bold-faced lie, and I've sat in that courtroom and listened to it. Then the judge says, I challenge anybody to understand what Leighton is saying. And I stood up, and so did his sister, Mandy. And the judge says, we're not going to go there. We're not going to do that. He turns around and says, well, David Miller is sitting right there in the courtroom. No, I'll take care of this. You just sit down, District Attorney. David Miller in my courtroom. And then, okay, take Leighton back to jail. That's it for this hearing.
Okay, so let me ask you. It was a kangaroo
court every single day.
Now, I want to ask you, if all these judges are corrupt and they're all not operating according to even their own so-called laws, then how do you expect to be effective?
That's a good question. When an individual wants to go into court and babble, under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 44 and 44.1, all judges are actors on a stage. All people coming to court are foreign people. They speak a foreign language. They babble in a courtroom. They write in a foreign language. I can't understand anything in my courtroom. Now, just like you go to a theater, the actor is on a stage. The continuance of evidence is broken because everybody is on a different plane. The clerk of the court, the jury, you have to have 12 jury members, right? Then how come that there's only 6 on the first plane and 6 on the second plane? There's no continuance of evidence. So where do you put a jury? You put a jury in a jury box. Look it up in a dictionary. A jury box is an enclosed area that can't see witnesses or hear testimony. The word jury, J-U, means no law, and R-Y means contract. No law, contract. So therefore, the jury is only there listening. They don't have better than a second grade reading level. Anybody showing up for jury selection that wears a 1 to 1.9 grammar flag, which is recognized worldwide now as the grammar flag, is disqualified from jury duty for 6 years.
I probably should get one of those.
Why are they? Our soldiers are fighting overseas.
Why are they? Wait. Why are they Why aren't they? Qualified for jury duty if they have one of these flags?
Because only the yellow fringed flag is allowed in the courtroom, or a military flag with a square blue field, a blue union. 3x5 is a military flag. When you put a spear on top of the flag, it's a military court-martial. We're not in the military. They're court-martials for civilians. And when the wings, you look at a dollar bill, the wings of the eagle are pointed up. When the wings are up, you're in a postal court. If the wings are down, it's a phoenix, which is a fiction bird of the Vatican for banking. Fiction banking. And everything in the courtroom is controlled by what is on top of the standard, not the flag you think you're looking at. Anything you place on a standard cancels the contract of the flag, whether it be state flag, federal flag, Mickey Mouse flag.
Now this is Admiralty. Is this not? Are you not quoting?
I went into a VFW post.
Are you not quoting Admiralty law?
I went into a VFW post. No.
Who are
I'm quoting Law of the Flag, Army Regulations 840-10, Chapter 2-6.
Okay, that's something in the U.S.?
That's published in my book.
I know, but is that something you found in the U.S. States government constitution, military code? You know, I wonder why.
United States Pentagon, Department of Navy.
Okay, I wonder why, David, you don't appreciate the notion that maybe laws could change, people can change, and rules can change, and that what's actually in operation is taking precedence over this sort of system that you may be ideal in some form or fashion, although I'm not quite sure it is, but nonetheless, you're claiming it's correct in some way, backed by some 6,000 years of procedures written down on paper, I suppose, by humans. I mean, in other words, these were decisions made by humans. They can retract them and rewrite them in any which way they want. And apparently, our systems are so corrupt that judges regularly do so on a whim, based on whatever they want to do. So why? I mean, I think it's fascinating that you stick with this, but I really do wonder: are you being flexible? As a soul living on Earth at this time, is this making sense?
There is no flexibility to a math problem. It's either right or it's wrong.
But human relations
Grammar is
are not
certified to be an algebra.
Did it ever occur to you that
people
human
have
relations
only a second
are
grade
not?
reading level.
I don't know about that, but human relations are not based on a math problem. Why did you ever believe that?
Human relations are based on love and hate. And that's a chemical imbalance in all human beings.
Well, do you want to be
dealing with contracts?
Do you want to be an
contracts are written on a piece
android?
of paper. And when you got paper is a vessel in a sea of space.
Well, what's
Your
a human
contract
being?
must be correct.
What's a human
it's a
being in the
lie.
sea of space? What's a human being?
Human being is $1.85.
Come on.
Unless you chop it up, and then you get about $1 million for spare parts.
No, seriously. I mean, really. Maybe.
You know what I'm talking about.
I don't, because putting a value on human life in that way is not really going to get us anywhere, is it?
Well, the value is in your intelligence. That's why some people make $1 million or $20 million a
just
year,
because
and other people,
no, it's where you apply your intelligence. You can be plenty intelligent and decide not to play the game of the system. In fact, in many ways, you'd be more intelligent if you made that choice.
And I give it away for free to educate people. Free videos.
I know, but what you're really
so
talking
people can
about,
study at their own speed.
I mean, why don't we just create a whole new system? How would that be?
They just did that with Bitcoin, didn't they?
Well, I'm suspicious of that, as perhaps you are. So I'm not so sure that's the case. But
I went back to basics. I went back to the basics of styles.
I understand that.
The Cornell University Dictionary is 4 feet thick. It's got every word written in history in every translation. Imagine that, a dictionary.
Well, maybe I don't respect that. Before, I mean, I don't know if you realize that we're being visited by, humans from other planets, et cetera, as well as beings that are not humanoid.
Yes, the moon was moved.
Okay, so if you understand that, why
2013 the moon was moved.
All right, do you think
17.6 degrees.
Great. Who do you think moved it?
Well, you have to have a dampening field to neutralize the weight of the moon to move it into an orbit from 250,000 miles into 222 to 256. Now, the reason the moon was moved was to catch an asteroid moving 41,000 miles an hour and punched a hole in the moon 65 miles wide and 10 miles deep. If the moon had not been moved, it would have hit Nebraska, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. The entire planet would have been vaporized.
Okay, what
2 miles below Nebraska,
what year do you
there's
believe
a
that
lake
happened?
of water 2 miles deep.
Okay, what year was that?
2013.
2013?
September 21st, 2013.
Okay, very
good. We
good.
now have 4 full moons. Starting tomorrow night, there will be 4 full moons. Go outside and look. Since the beginning of our histories, we only had 1 full moon a month. Now we've got 4.
Okay.
And somebody says to me, what corporation on planet Earth moved the moon? I'm going like an airplane to fly and want to move a moon.
Okay, so you're pretty aware, and who gave you that information? Somebody?
because of who I am, I had classified information from the Air Force. We have about the spacecraft in Greenland. It's 300 miles long, 55 miles wide, and 2 miles high, and currently sticks out of the ice 1 mile.
Right.
Strange object in Greenland. It's all over the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another one in Antarctica, and there's 3 more on the dark side of the moon. It was picked up by the Hummel telescope, and my buddy who works at Hummel sent me a video on it as they docked on the dark side of the moon, and 5 days later the moon was moved 17.6 degrees out of orbit. This spacecraft, there's 3 of them, 300 miles long, so they had the horsepower to throw a dampening field around the moon and move it into a location to catch the asteroid and save the planet.
And that's someone here on planet Earth. I bet they didn't use syntax
concerned
grammar.
About mankind.
I guess they didn't use syntax grammar, did they?
I think they used good common sense. But then I said to the government, well, what are you going to do when these people show up? Are you going to babble an adverb verb, or are you going to use a mathematic communication that is certified frontwards and backwards where you're not lying to these people? They could very easily take up a position called a quadrahedron because they have four positions of location, A, B, C, and D, and put the planet Earth and drop a dampening field over the planet, which would stop electrons. You do the math on that.
It sounds a little bit like a Dyson sphere, although you're talking about something that isn't spherical. Well, it's good that you know that information. I'm just wondering. No, but let's discuss this because, various robots may be
I had the whole program on my website for 3 years, and the Air Force took it down. About the spacecraft in Greenland. Had all the facts, all the people involved, officers, pictures. It was up on my website for 3 years, and then it disappeared one day when the Air Force took it down. Said, don't talk about that. You're disrupting the religions of the world.
Okay, well, it's unfortunate they did that. It's too bad you didn't send that over to me. They consider implausible deniability, okay? So if I put that on my website, I would probably get away with it a lot longer than you would. Okay, so I appreciate that you have
I got away with 3 years.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, you're using a system that is not being acknowledged by your fellow man. Now, we may not appreciate those particular fellow men, meaning judges and people that are running the system, but this is what they're doing. So how do you, I'm just curious, what's your vision of how you think you're going to succeed, if you think you're going to succeed?
All right. You used the word acknowledge. I spell that A-C-K, about 2 consonants. A-C means no knowledge. So we have a no knowledge system that's attacking a knowledge. The knowledge is mathematics, which there isn't a person on this planet that's going to argue with math. Every sentence I write can be certified.
I can raise my hand. I actually will argue with math. I don't think the math is the same here on planet Earth as it is in other systems.
I don't believe that.
You know? I've been told time is not the same when you leave planet Earth.
That's true.
Okay, if time is different, then why isn't math different? How close you get to a black hole?
Okay, if you understand physics, quantum physics, and string theories, our location on the Milky Way galaxy allows light to travel at 186,000 miles per second, but electricity is exactly 1/2 that, 95,000 miles per second, which is a unique condition of electronics. We can send a laser beam moving at the speed of light that can carry 1,000 times more information than electricity through a wire, and have a higher level of efficiency in computer technology.
Well, I have been told that the speed of light is arbitrary.
A piece of wire 1 inch long. Say again, please.
I have been told that the speed of light is arbitrary.
Yes, it's based on how close you are to the Milky Way galaxy black hole because of the gravitational factor.
Okay, but there's a lot more to the multiverse
those
than
numbers
that.
Change.
Okay, and what about when you go interdimensional?
Right.
The speed of light no longer applies.
How many dimensions are there? Well, we deal with our XYZ in time. And is there 5 to 1 million dimensions stacked on top of each other?
Right.
I can't tell you. I haven't been there.
Okay,
we can theorize all day long.
I want to know what your vision is for, because in a way, you sort of sound like Don Quixote, and I want to know what is your vision for the future?
No, I deal only in the facts.
Okay. So let me see if this is going to reconnect or not. Again, it's lost. So let me see if I can dial him back right away and see if this works using this sort of method. Okay, so we seem to have lost him again. What I'm going to do is I do have this audio from Leighton Ward, and I guess I'm going to play this, and I hope we can get David back in order to have him sort of, because in a sense, having him translate to some degree what Leighton Ward is talking about would probably be somewhat helpful as well, because in Leighton's case, he's talking rather rapidly, and with the audio quality, it's not great. So I'm going to refresh this page and see if we can get a better connection back to David. There you are.
I'm still here.
Very good. Okay, so David, what I would like to do at this point, I think we'll play the Leighton Ward audio and have you listen, and I hope this is going to work. It's an experiment. And have the audience listen and just hear what he has to say. He's in prison. He is making some statements. I'm doing this as a favor to him and to his sister, who has requested that I do this.
Sister.
Okay? And her name is Mandy. So thank you.
Yes.
And I'm going to play it. I hope this will work. Okay? Stand by.
I'm going to just rip through this as quick as I can, because I don't want to take time. Is David still planning on doing the interview tonight?
Yes.
Okay. So I need this to go in front of Carrie, and she can decide if she wants to air it or not, or just however you want to do it. I don't want to take too much time from David, but at the same time, I should feel like, since it's technically about my case, I want to have some voice in it. So I'm going to go through as quick as I can. I'm going to beat around notes a little bit and try to make that a very clear point that I want to get relayed out so everybody understands this is not going to go on anymore.
Yeah.
So just let me know when you're ready to record, and then when I'm done, I'll just say that's all I really wanted to say, and you can stop the recording. So I'm ready now when you're ready.
All right, let's do this. I'm ready.
So we're recording right now?
Yep.
Okay, so today's November 30th, 2017. This is Leighton Ward. I just got done with court. This is going to go to Carrie Cassidy. They're doing an interview with David Wynn Miller tonight about my situation. Carrie Cassidy, first of all, thanks for taking the time to take on this story. It goes against the grain for most people that want to take on a story like this. I'm going to go over some really quick facts. I'm going to go over a lot of notes very quickly, so I'll talk fast because I don't want to take time from David. But this whole process started when I filed lawsuits. David and I filed several lawsuits against the big banks for fraudulent grammar. Those lawsuits ends up and results in what's called a fault contract. The lawsuits were filed with the federal postal court. A fault contract is what you guys know is a final default judgment that the banks never corresponded back. So what we did then is I filed correct judgments in the counties And what happens was Wells Fargo in two particular cases here in Arizona while being held, and also in Tennessee, Wells Fargo went in and sold the properties without clearing these judgments from the counties. And they tried to get around, sneaking around the counties and acting like they couldn't see the judgments. They went ahead and sold properties without clearing stuff from the counties, which is illegal. What ends up happening is I caught Jill Davis, the judge in Lake Havasu City, participating with illegal foreclosures on one of these Wells Fargo sales. I caught her backdating documents. I syntaxed her oath of office, which a person can look up on YouTube. I then got a call from Steve Auld, the Mojave County investigator, more or less threatening me if I don't remove the videos. Basically, if I remove the videos, they'll let things go, and that's where it all started. I let everybody know about these frauds long before the fraudulent grammar lawsuits were sent to Wells Fargo, certified mail. Berkshire Hathaway, I believe, had 51% shareholders in Wells Fargo. I sent copies of all this information to them. They're aware of it. Chief of Police, Lake Havasu, the sheriff, Mojave County. Everybody got stuff. Notification of all this stuff on May 4th. In California, they put out a high-risk warrant on me. 6 cop cars pulled up on me with AR-15s. Eventually, they arrested me that same time. That same day, they raided my house. Took over electronics, any proof of documents I had for my cases, all the work I've done for the federal postal court, anything I would do to the federal postal court, all my electronics, they took every bit of it. The entire fraud case in Arizona and also in Tennessee revolves around the banks. Like I said, they're trying to stop the federal postal court from existing. They're trying to block correct grammar, and they're trying to stop from judgments in the county. Well, the courts don't have any control over judgments in the county, and that's what they're trying to do, is make sure that the courts can have control whatever goes in the counties. And what happens is, in all cases, what they do, if a person really studies this, you'll see that what they do is they take a 100% redirect of the facts. So I can prove 100%, David and I can prove 100% what they did was fraudulent and illegal, and they redirect it. And then they use opinions, slander, and then basically the opinions of judges or people in authority to make their opinions look like the facts. And their opinions have no bearing whatsoever. They're all just, again, false and misleading statements of opinion. Goes back to a guy named Jeffrey Meyer in Connecticut. He's a judge out there who struck some federal postal court registrations from his court judgments, which has nothing to do with anything. Anybody can have an opinion. Well, Jeffrey Meyer and all these other judges admit that they do not understand the language. They can't comprehend it, yet at the same time they're making opinions about it. And during this entire time, their lack of understanding of the federal postal court and correct grammar never once that they've interviewed myself or David Wynn Miller on any of this stuff. Instead, what they do is they farm around and they follow the fact by just again, people, when they see an opinion from a judge, they think it's a fact, but if you start studying, you really understand that there's no facts behind any of their opinions on what they're talking about. So I got riffs in California. They put me in front of a judge. The first time they started blocking my communication was they sent me an extradition form. The form contained false and misleading statements, and I translated the form into correct grammar. And then the judge, Diane Simmons, in the court would not read the translation. She blocked my communication in the court, basically blocking my ability to speak and communicate. If anything was done in correct grammar, they would not talk about it. They blocked everything. So by doing that, it put me in California law longer necessary on charges that were false to begin with. Got to Arizona on July 11th. And from that point in time, every single time I've been in court, they've blocked 100% of my communications. Whenever I sent something in correct grammar, what's called a kite is just a piece of paper. It's the only way I have of getting information out of here. When I send something in correct grammar, accusing them of certain frauds and having evidence to do so, they will not allow the correct grammar in their court whatsoever. They're blocking 100% of my communication. Anything that I say correct grammar, they will not allow it. And they keep warning me and forcing me that if I don't go into speaking into fiction grammar, which I'll go over in a second, that you'll see if anybody reads the transcripts on this stuff, that's why I encourage people to go out and read the transcripts and pull the kites from the case file, CR 2017-00817. Again, CR 2017-00817. That's out of Arizona. A California one, somebody has to go back and look at the case number. But the bottom line is that they're blocking freedom of speech, which is the First Amendment, my ability to defend my vessel or defend myself. They're blocking all of my rights to do anything. So when I walk into court, I have no voice. It's no different than putting me in a hole and saying the court. They won't communicate about them. They won't talk about them. They just say it's hieroglyphics and basically say they can't understand it. I was denied a translator. The judge at one point in time, they put $1 million bond on me with no facts to support that in any way, shape, or form. The judge further claims that I was a danger in all 50 states, again, with no facts. And again, if anybody pulls the kite communications from the court, you'll see that they're blocking half of my kites they're not filing. When I say kite, I'm saying communication from me to the court. They're not filing the documents. If they read the kites, they'll see all the crimes that they've done and all the stuff that they're blocking. Today, once again, they blocked all my communications, efforts to try to get them to read correct sentence structure in the court. They wouldn't do it. Again, it's no different than throwing somebody a hole and saying, vent yourself, but without letting them communicate in any way, shape, or form. A lot of people say David's just magically up and fix this. David didn't cause this problem. David broke the code on grammar back in 1988, so it's been almost 30 years he's been fighting this battle. I learned correct grammar, I understand it. Obviously, no one's going to have the expertise as much as David or the specialty as much as David, but I certainly understand enough to defend myself in the court. And David's gone to extents to try to educate these people on what they're doing wrong. It's what's called the Title 42, 1986, for stopping for correcting for knowledge of the crime. They're not doing any of that. He spoke with Brian Masden. And here's the thing, make it clear, I say this all the time, and I don't know if people really understand it. You have a judicial system, Mojave County, the courts, the attorneys, and all the way across the country, of people that cannot identify the parts of speech in what they're writing. Now, I ask them to identify the parts of speech, they won't do it. That would be the same as a mathematician claiming to be a mathematician, or a bunch of mathematicians claiming to be mathematicians, and when you ask them to identify the numbers, symbols, and values in their equations, they can't do it. Well, I can do it, and David can do it. There's a lot of people that can do it. We can identify the parts of speech to make sure the values of the words were not changed, and that's what's going on here. When I correct their documents and show them that it's fraud, they don't want to acknowledge it. And when I show them correct grammar, they don't want to talk about it either. And this is evidence if Project Camelot or Carrie Cassidy, she can call up, I'm going to list off some names. Diane Simmons, the judge out of California, Jill Davis, Lake Havasu judge, Stephen Kahn, judge out of Kingman, Rick Lambert, judge out of Kingman, Steve Auld, investigator out of Mojave County, Matthew Smith, the GA of Mojave County, James Shopman, attorney out of Mojave County, Brian Masden, I just mentioned, and he's a police officer in Lake Havasu, and you got Michael with the FBI. Ask any of those people to get on your show and chat with me and David face to face without hiding, without blocking anything, and you'll see that none of them will show up. Every time it comes down to grammar, they will always hide because they cannot identify the parts of speech. None of them have an oath of office that's correct, which means they don't have an oath of office to anything that they've done to me. From August 4th or May 4th till now, it's been over 190 days. I've been blocked at my communication to defend myself in every way, shape, and form. And people don't quite get that. They think, well, what will happen next? No, it continues to go on and on and on that they block my communications. So I want to make this clear. When you block somebody's communications, you're blocking their ability for them to defend themselves. No different than somebody blocking your ability to eat, to sustain life. There's really no difference, except when somebody doesn't eat, obviously they lose weight. So at this point, let's say, again, November 30th, 2017, I'm going to go on a hunger strike, whatever you want to call it, because I'm not playing with these games anymore with these guys. They've done too much. They've taken my family. The stuff that they did to my mom, make my mom sleep on a concrete floor. There's more details. People can go into that. They've done so much damage to my family without evidence of anything, using false and misleading statements. So as of today, if people want to see what's going on, they don't quite get the idea that blocking communication is the same as blocking somebody to eat. They're going to see exactly how it works. So from this point on, that's how it's going to be. I'm trying to get a point out there that this is not going to go on anymore. These guys are not going to stop. They're not going to stop doing what they're doing until somebody starts doing something about it. I've done everything I possibly can. David's done everything he can. He's been here for courts. He's done what he knows to do, what he can. But David doesn't carry guns or clubs. So at this point, that's where it's going to be. I'm done with these guys, and that's with my family. The things they've done, they need to vacate these cases. Not only the Arizona case, the Tennessee case. They need to return all of my stuff that they stole. Everything that they took, I want my life back to normal. They leave us alone, we'll leave them alone. But at this point, it's not going to go anymore. I'm done playing with these ability to communicate for way too long. Again, I encourage people to go back, read the communications with the kites in the court. Pull it up. There should be 75. By the time you guys hear maybe 76, 77 kites, you'll see that they're blocking all of this stuff. They're blocking communications from one person to them themselves. And you can pull the transcripts. You can see it plain as day that they're blocking my ability to communicate in court. They want me, they basically say 3 plus 3 equals 14. When I come back and say, no, it equals 6, I can prove it. And they say, no, in our court it equals 14. I come back and say it's 6. And it goes on and on and on. And nobody seems to get the point that it's the same thing as blocking somebody's ability to defeat themselves. So I'm going to make that real clear at this point. I'm done with it. Anybody wants to step up and make some calls, do some things, but at this point, I'll eat when I get back home. And my daughter made a comment yesterday of, we were talking about, I think, a recital or something. She was like, I hope you're home by December 20th. Well, we'll see what people do about it, because I've done everything I can in here. I'm tired of being blocked. So I appreciate anybody stepping in and doing something about it, because this isn't just about me, it's about communication and about the blocking communication for anybody that wants to be correct. I guess that's it for now.
All right.
Okay.
You there?
Yes.
All right. So,
Okay, so that's the audio from Leighton Ward, and we played it all the way through. So it will be recorded on this video, even though it seemed that we were going in and out on this window. Just so you know, so you can watch the YouTube, and it will be there. It should be there in total, recorded by YouTube. So here we are, David. You've heard what Leighton had to say. Do you want to address any of the things that he mentioned there?
Yes, I was in court, and I got to witness everything that he said personally there. The judge is denying he has a right to a translator, his right to speak in correct grammar. But just like I started to tell you before, when you go into a theater, every single person's on a different plane, so there's no continuance of evidence. If you don't like what you see, well, it's just an illusion, because you're not actually on the same level playing field. You got a level playing field in baseball and basketball and football. Bowling, it doesn't matter. All your sports are level to be equal on a level playing field. But in the law, everything is in boxes and on different planes. So there is absolutely never a continuance of evidence with anyone or anything or any facts. Only negativity is allowed in their world. And negativity does not exist. Only performance and correspondence and communications, and it must be correct. Otherwise, you're just babbling and talking to yourself. When I made a statement, everyone in America, I don't care if you got a PhD, has got a second grade reading level, they agree with me. People wake up one day and they're 40 years old and they say, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto, because they can't read and write. They're working their hearts off. They're 65 years old and they're penniless. No matter how many millions of dollars they made, it's gone. Because of the way the system is set up. And only 1% or 2% of the people are out there owning 98% of it. And if they can't get it one way or the other, they create something like Bitcoin and just pull it out of thin air and say, we got money now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, at this point, I'm not sure what, I've encouraged Leighton's sister to build a website basically, and to also maybe she has a Facebook page. Actually, I'm going to give this information out. I'll also put it in the chat, but it will be on my page. But I asked her if there's a way that people can get in touch with her. She did say that she has a Facebook page. The Facebook page is under the name, it looks like Mandy Hunter. So if you want to look up her if you're on Facebook and you want to use that method to contact her, apparently her name is Mandy Hunter. The other thing is that she has an email address, which is kind of hard to read. So it's I think I'll have to put it on my website. It's kind of hard to read here. I think it looks like CALIBRAQ, Aquarius is the word, AQUARIUS at yahoo.com. So I'm kind of looking at the name to see if it has a pronunciation at all. Calibrac or something like that at, I don't know, CALIBR. And then the word Aquarius is I guess what they're saying it is. Anyway, I'll type it into the chat and hopefully it'll be correct. So that's if you want to get in touch with Leighton Ward. I have, as I say, encouraged them to create some kind of website where people can, respond. I don't know if they need funds to, for legal defense and this sort of thing, or if they need funds to stay alive in this situation that they're in. There are pictures now of the family that I put on my website, projectcamelot.tv. All you do is click on the David Wynn Miller interview and scroll down on that post on my front page, and you will see the information there, as well as David Wynn Miller's link to his website. So, David, is there anything else that, while you're here on my show, we've been going for a while, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I am going to ask for questions in the chat. We do have a chat room where people can type questions. So if you have, 5 or 10 minutes to do that, if people do have questions, please do put them in all caps, and I will attempt to relay them to David and have him answer them. Other than that, David, any more things you would like to cover?
One of the things that I experiment with Americans versus people in China, Australia, Europe, the number 6 plus 6 divided by 6, what's the answer? Everybody comes back with the same answer in the United States. 200 out of 200, they say 2. And I said, no, 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 1 and 6 is 7. You always divide before you add. Order of operations. If you don't follow the operations of math, you get the wrong number. If you don't follow the operations of syntax, you get the wrong definition of the word. When it says the court, like here I'm looking at in the United States District Court. In is a pronoun. The is an adverb. United means no citizen. It's an adjective. It modifies the word state to be an adjective, which modifies the word district. DIS means demon god of the underworld for trickery in a closed area called court, which is now a pronoun. Where's my fact? There is no fact. And then it says for the District of Arizona. For is a pronoun, the is an adverb, making district to be a verb, of is an adverb, making Arizona a verb. Where do you put the Arizona verb? In the verb America, just like it says on the money, the United States of America. All 50 states must be used as verbs. Now, in 1834, Congress passed a law that all compound nouns, South Carolina, New York, New Jersey, North Dakota, definited to make it a compound verb.
Okay, we lost David again, and so we're going to try to reconnect with him here. Hopefully this will work. And at the same time, I'm going to share my screen. For those of you who don't know how to find his website, it's dead easy. You just type in David Wynn Miller in a Google search or other search term, and I've got it here now on the screen. Hopefully you can see that. So this is his website. His website is actually dwmic.com. I'll put the link in the chat as well. For those of you who do ask questions like that, Google is your friend, although, it may be an AI or whatever. But nonetheless, almost anything you ask can be answered on the internet somewhere by just doing a search. So very, very easy to find. And so we're going to try to reconnect with him here. Okay, I guess Mandy has been on the chat, so maybe she put her own email address on there for you. As I was saying, it seems to be there. And Mandy, if you're still hearing me and you're still there, then I suggest that you put your email address on there. Hope I didn't spell it wrong. And I'm going to type it here as well and try to relink with David as we do this. Great, we got you back. So what we're doing is basically showing them your website, giving them the link, and again, you were saying some last-minute words here. Go right ahead, David.
When I gave you that math problem, they don't teach operations in the United States, and people don't pay attention to operations on math, and they don't pay attention to the word syntax. You know, when I was 10 years old, I studied sentence diagramming in school. Today, they don't do that. They just say, write anything you want and do creative writing. There are no rules that they teach the English students today. And I went into school and I wrote a correct prepositional phrase on the blackboard for parent-teachers conferences. The teacher came in and saw that, grabbed an eraser immediately, and screamed, "Who wrote that?" and erased it so that nobody could see what correct grammar looks like. So the teachers are told, if you teach correct grammar, we will put your children in foster care and put you in an insane asylum. We cannot have Americans educated in correct grammar, because then they would know that we've been lying to them for 240 years, and we would lose control over the people. And that's the way they run this government.
All right.
And more and more people every day are coming over to correct grammar.
Okay, so I've typed
And it isn't just here. It's all over the world.
All right. I appreciate that. I have typed Mandy's email address in the chat, so if you want to contact her and try to help her husband to get out of jail or just help their family.
Hers is her brother. That's her brother.
I mean, her brother, I'm sorry. To get out of jail, and, I'm sure it would be greatly appreciated. Anything you can do if you want to try to contact him and see if we can get him out of jail. It'd be great if someone wants to start a Facebook page to get him out of jail. The more people that are aware of his case, the fact that he is on no charges, being held for how many days again was it, David? Do you remember?
190 days now.
Okay.
With no charges, on $1 million bail. He's got people in jail that are drug dealers and are in there for shooting and attempted murder with only $10,000 bail.
Right.
But because he uses correct grammar, it's $1 million bail, which is insane.
It is insane. It's absolutely insane.
That shows you how afraid they are.
That's true. Apparently they are afraid, and there are issues with all of this. And I think that otherwise they would have let Sean David Morton stand up and defend himself in his own trial. But apparently they didn't want to admit any of that into court. So there seems to be some substantiation. I wanted to get back to Hawaii for just a minute. Because you were saying how it's no longer a state of the United States. It's supposed to be its own government, or not sure how you term it. At any rate, does the United States government know this?
Of course they do. Post office controls the issues.
Well, they may want to control the issues, but do they actually control?
In the United States District Court in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And I prosecuted 22 state and federal judges and 12 U.S. attorneys, and it was upheld by the United States Supreme Court in The Hague. And those warrants for the arrest of those judges and those U.S. attorneys is still outstanding for the military to put them in prison. Now, at the same time that trial took place, the United States court system went outside and took the sign down on the building where it said United States District Courthouse and put up U.S. Court, us court. Not U period, S period, but us court. And that's all they had to steam clean. They had to steam clean the shadow that the sun had baked into the brick, off the brick, so people would not know that it used to be the federal court. And they just call it the us court now.
Okay, that's interesting.
And when I walk into the courthouse, all the walkie-talkies go, the judges in the court. Everybody behave yourself. Because I'm the only judge in Honolulu, including Keely Kahau, that has a correct oath of office. And she is my Hawaiian judge that speaks Hawaiian for the Hawaiian people as a translator.
Okay.
And we're the only two judges that have correct oaths of office in the entire island. And there's 92 judges in Hawaii. Obama appointed a special federal judge that knows my syntax just to deal with me personally when I go to court in Honolulu. And I've been to Hawaii over 100 times since 1995. I lived there for 5 years. I came in January, in December, January this year. I had 5 heart attacks. I was in Tripler Medical Hospital for 76 days. And while I was in Tripler, I was given a fatal dose of muscle relaxer, which killed me and killed 4 other people in my ward, and they died and were cremated. My sister sat next to my bed and refused to allow them to disconnect me from my respirator. And I was paralyzed for 46 days.
Wow.
And I was legally dead and disconnected with no heartbeat for 55 hours when I woke up. And it shocked everybody, the fact that I was the first person in 75 years to be legally dead for 55 hours and wake up.
Okay.
And I was hooked up to all this equipment.
So what did you see? No, David, stop. What? Okay, so you were dead for 55 hours. What did you see? What did you learn?
Snap your fingers. That's how much time went by in my brain.
Ah, all right.
You know the white light that everybody talks about? That's 200 joules of electricity being shot through your body to jumpstart your heart. They did it to me 5 times, so I know what it feels like.
Okay.
I got to see the white light 5 times.
Well, we're very happy you're still with us.
But I made a full made 100% recovery. I answer about 20, 25 phone calls a day and help people, and I'm sharp. I work every day, 12 hours.
My advice to you is not to go into the hospital.
Helping people.
Not to go into a hospital next time, and don't go to the dentist either if you want to stay alive.
Oh, I got a good dentist. He's a real sweetheart.
All right. Well, I hope he stays that way.
By the way, I had all my mercury fillings removed when I was a teenager.
That's good.
I had a paper route, and I paid for my own fillings to have them taken out and put ceramic in.
Very smart. Good for you.
Okay.
Do you know about the alien? Well, do you know about the alien base under Hawaii?
Yes, it's on the South Island. It's 400 feet below South Island. They have 20 1.3 megawatt windmills to generate the electricity. It's a submarine base for nuclear powered submarines. Apparently, Big Island's got a lot of these really big volcano tubes, and they had this enormous one off of South Point, and they hollowed it out and they made an underground submarine base there. And I was following this convoy. It was 14 trucks going down South Point, There's only one road. And 1 minute they were there, and the next minute they drove off into this field and disappeared. It was a hologram. I kid you not. These people, there's all these trucks that disappeared in this hologram were gone.
That's amazing. Yep.
It's pretty
Very
cool.
interesting. Now, I've got there were a couple questions here in the chat. I'm going to try to grab them. Bear with me. Someone wants to know, what's the difference between the federal and FISA court?
I never heard of a FISA court. I know federal court. I've been doing that for the last 25 years.
FISA, F as in Frank, I,
Federal
S,
means
A.
we're going to use federal money.
Okay. I don't know what a FISA court is either, but it sounds like a financial situation.
Sounds like an abbreviation.
Okay. Maybe the person can write that out so that we can understand what FISA is. My understanding is FISA is, again, a financial term. Okay, let me see.
Well, if you have a financial court, then it's got to be a financial contract.
Okay.
Usually stock markets and securities.
Someone wants
Here's
to
a
know.
little plug for you.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
Someone wants to know, can you confirm certain symbols in black magic are used in court for mind control?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
They use sign language between the judges and the attorneys, which they practice at the lodge. Masonic lodges uses a lot of hand signals. Usually when the court reporters find out that the two Masons are having a conversation with sign language, she gets up and walks out because she can't take notes to sign language.
Okay.
I've seen that happen in many trials.
Can David tell us the correct grammar sentence he wrote on the blackboard?
I've written in what seminar? I've done 1,000 seminars.
I don't know. Not sure which one. Maybe they can say.
The sentence they're asking for is, for the claimant's knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar of the laws, rules, regulations, and codes with avoidance of the perjury by the claimant. That's probably the sentence they're looking for.
Okay. What can we do to change the language of law? Someone wants to know.
Well, if you study the website, the website's already written in correct grammar, and there's several lawsuits assigned to different areas of the pages, like the insurance fraud. I have a 2-page lawsuit up there that outlines the fictitious insurance as well as mortgage fraud. But you also have to have a dictionary and a sequence of laws to go with that with expanded definitions. And along with the forensic evidence that's been syntaxed that you attach to your lawsuit, and has to be all bonded together. A vessel called paper must have a stamp to pay the postage to transport it between point A and B, and all vessels under maritime law must have a flag to advertise what the volition of that transportation vessel is, and so we use the 1 to 1.9 flag. The black and white one deals with grammar. Even though we file it in color, it's always photocopied in black and white, and so the only way the court's going to identify it is in black and white. So we copyright it both ways, black and white and in color, as the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar flag, and all 250 countries worldwide recognize it as the grammar flag, not the flag of America. America's flag always has yellow fringe on it, which is Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Grand Samona, District of Columbia, and all courthouses in the United States.
Okay.
You know, you're in the territory of California, not the state of California. State of California is the name of the courthouse. You live in the territory, which means Earth, California.
Okay, I think I prefer that. Let's see. Did Leighton Ward sign anything whatsoever since being arrested?
No.
Okay, good.
Sign means to simulate, SI. Sign, simulation, signature, simulation, autograph, authority, authorization, authentic. Symbol for gold on a periodic table is AU because he who has the gold has the authority AU. Because you buy the military, which creates the force, the control. And you can only keep what you can control.
Okay, does someone else is asking about the quarrel between you and Jay Gould?
It's Russell Gould.
Okay,
There's no quarrel between us.
All right.
Russell did a court martial, but he's not in the military, neither am I, so that was just an act, or acting for 3.5 minutes, which means nothing.
Okay.
And Russell and I have been close friends for 22 years. We fly fish every year together.
Okay, sounds good. Let me see. I think we've got most of the questions. Sorry?
I say Russell and I have been corporation partners since August 12th, 1999, when we were awarded our own country by the United Nations, the condition of state of a correct parse, syntax, grammar, language country deserves its own country in a world of fiction. So when they asked me, what country do you claim is your courtroom? What landmass do you claim is your courtroom? I said, I claim the land of the courtroom floor during the time of the correct parse, syntax, grammar, quo warranto complaint. And that's our constitution of the courtroom floor. So all courtroom floors, when I enter, are my country, and I am the director of my country. Same as the President of the United States, I have diplomatic immunity. As a federal judge, I have diplomatic immunity because I have a correct oath and a correct constitution and a correct gold banking contract and a correct postmaster's position to transport my vessel between point A and point B.
Okay, David?
Here's your answer.
Do you, someone wants to know, and this is the last question I'm going to ask you from the chat, do you know what the deep state is referring to?
Deep state? No.
Secret government.
State? No.
Secret government would probably be a good translation. Although some people say the secret government is even deeper than the deep state. So, does that make any sense to you?
That's black ops.
Right.
That's just your black ops programs, and those are going on all around the world by all governments. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got black ops, you know that. Nobody talks about it. Do you know that the judges have their own black ops? I had a judge in Utah. He came off the bench, and he was fined $10,000. At the second hearing we came to, went back on the bench. He says, "Don't ask me to come down. They told me if I leave the bench, they will kill me this time, not fine me $10,000. And they're not fooling."
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it's a very interesting dilemma. Well, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show, David. I really appreciate your intelligence and your great answers to my questions. And I'm sure that the audience does as well. So thank you again, and thank you for coming to talk to us about Leighton Ward, as well as everything else. Any parting words that you'd like to say to the crowd here, the audience, before we move along and close this show down?
Well, I would appreciate if people would watch the videos. Just type in my name, David Wynn Miller Videos. And after they watch the videos, do some reading on the website before you call me up and say, I've only watched an hour, but I want to ask you all these questions. If you watch the video, the answers are there automatically. And if they go through maybe 20 or 30 hours of videos and then call me up, we're going to have a very intelligent conversation because their eyes will be open to how much fraud is going on. So,
All right, wonderful.
but all I get is email compliments on what we're doing.
Okay, very good. Well, again, thank you again for being here and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you for
Have a
having
great
me.
night, and maybe we can talk with you again in the future if you have something you'd like to share.
Yes. Well, be happy to be on your show. You do a very nice job. Thank you.
All right. Okay, take care and good night. So that's David Wynn Miller, and fascinating guy, as you can see. And this will be available, of course, after we go after we close this down, obviously on YouTube. And for those of you who are having difficulty finding his website, just for the moment, I'll just put it on the screen here, and so that you can see that. As he says, he has quite a complex website, and I think it's worth being aware of if you're interested at all in this topic. And what I'm doing now is just waiting for YouTube to catch up with me. So there's a weird delay that goes on, and I can't quite make sense of it, but I guess it all comes together in the end. So now, tomorrow, I have an interesting guy on. His name is Harry Cooper. He's going to be talking about a book he wrote called Hitler in Argentina. We're going to be talking about Antarctica. I'm not sure his level of knowledge in that area, but I'm hoping to get some information from him, or at least his point of view. He has been doing tours in Nazi Germany, a very strange thing to do from my point of view, but this is what he does. We're going to talk to him about that, and hopefully we're going to get the logistics working. Seems like he might be a little bit challenged by the whole sort of computer situation, but he says he can make it on Skype, so we'll have him on Skype. And that's what's happening tomorrow. So I may be doing some interviews in person. I could use some donations to make travel possible. I cannot reveal at this time who those people might be that I'm going to be interviewing, but you can appreciate that all the in-person interviews I've done in the past are well worth it. So if you want to donate, there'll be a slide come up towards the end of the credits letting you know where to donate to, but you can always go to my Project Camelot.tv website or ProjectCamelotPortal.com. They go to the same place and click on the donate button and help make this work possible, and also support the possibility of doing more in-person interviews as we go. And I have some potential ones, as I say, coming up in the very near future, maybe even this weekend. So thanks again for watching and for your support, and take care. And I'll be back online tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time to interview Harry Cooper about his book, Hitler in Argentina. And you can do a search or go to my website and see the post with link to his website, etc., on my site and my blog. All right. Thank you very much, and good night. Take care. Bye-bye.